GilGalad, the last High King of the Noldor in Middle-earth, is well known to be a great king, and a wise one, his refusal to admit Annatar into Lindon, not being deceived by Sauron's disguise, his alliance building both with the Numenorians in the first half of the Second Age, and then again with the realms in exile led by Elendil, are clear examples of his wisdom and diplomacy. Here I will cover the details of Gil-Galad's letter to Tar Meneldur, the fifth king of Numenor, because it's a great example that shows not only Gil-Galad's intellect but also his kindness and his care for his friends. Then I'll compare that to the version in the show. The first aspect of the letter concerns strategy and foresight. The king makes clear to Meneldur that a new threat has arisen, one that will grow in strength until the elves unaided would be unable to fight it off. He asks for the Numenorians' aid, and finally he reminds them that if they don't help, the forces of the Servant of Morgoth would eventually come for them too. All this makes it clear that Gil-Galad is forward-thinking. He understands that the elves will need to be ready for war, and that he has to try and make alliances to ensure the survival of their kingdoms. All the while, his choice of words are ones of gentleness and respect. I make bold to seek your help. Lend it to me, I beg. Which leads me to the second part, one of kindness and helping his friend. For Tar Meneldur and his son, the Prince Eldarion, had a strained relationship. The father considered his son to be irresponsible, sailing often and for too long away from the island, neglecting his responsibility to his wife and child, without the excuse of necessity that someone who is a mariner by trade has, and abandoning the island that one day he must take care of. Knowing some of this information, Gil-Galad tries to repair the relationship between father and son. Unlike his pushing for an alliance, this act wasn't done for the benefit of himself or his people, but rather for the benefit of the king's son, who was his friend. He does this by taking some of the blame for the prince's long travels. I apologize if I had detained him overlong in my service, and explaining that he played an integral part in informing Gil-Galad how best to fight the new enemy, and that he had long laboured to prepare a haven for the Numenorian ships to better attack the Servant of Morgoth. His approach draws away some of the king's anger towards his son, but also it makes clear that Eldarion has been doing important work and hasn't been sailing out of mere selfishness. He is even indirectly protecting Numenor. 2,600 years after this event, Gil-Galad would forge the last alliance of elves and men, which included the elven kings Orifer and Amdir, who were inclined to isolationism and didn't work well under others. So we have a wise, kind character who is the kind of person to fix his friends' relationships, who chooses his words carefully and is especially immune to deception. Now, how does the show portray this character? Well, we can drop the kindness altogether. When he addresses his herald asking him to break an oath, he doesn't offer gentle words of consolation and understanding as he explains the sacrifice that Elrond must make for the greater good. He barks orders in a standoffish kind of way, and just comes across quite cruel. He is someone who thinks evil will go away if you just leave it alone and retire the commander of your armies. Someone who tricks his herald into doing things he doesn't want to, and holds himself with an air of arrogance and superiority, yet devoid of nobility or majesty. Even before episode 5 he felt cold. He doesn't behave with the deference and gentleness you would expect him to behave with his older family member, his grandfather's sister. He gets into a staring match with her, no less, and even when he does show some semblance of respect, in the case of the special semi-holy stone that Durin claims is being used as a kitchen table, his apology is a detached one, covered in a thin veneer of sincerity, something much more like what you might get from Thranduil in the Hobbit films. None of these choices by the showrunners are justified by the source material, and more than half of them don't even contribute to the plot either. They leave you with no choice but to dislike a character that the audience should love, a character that the elves will sing songs about in after days, which leaves me wondering why, what was the point, and why should we accept this change when the show offers nothing special as consolation? Alright, goodbye guys, until next time.